Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Grassroots Racer. This is part two to the chat I had with Matt Hull last week. Honestly, it's been such a great chat so far. I hope you guys are still looking at it and still enjoying. If you haven't seen part one, make sure you go like it at least or have a quick look. I really appreciate that. And yeah, before we get into this week's episode, I did want to quickly mention well done to everyone who raced at Sydney on the weekend under lights. It was such a cool event. They had Trans Ams, XLs, RX8, and there was a few people who I had previously interviewed on here that managed to get down there, and it was so cool to watch. And yeah, I'd love to race at Sydney one day. It looks like such a cool track. But yeah, guys, if you haven't seen part one with Matt Hull, go back to the previous episode and make sure you check it out. But don't forget to also have a look at this one. So this part two, and this is where we sort of talk about more about his new and upcoming projects. But I won't spoil it for you guys. So enjoy Grassroots Racer. Well, have you got any future plans? Like, is there anything on the horizon after the MR2, or are you gonna try and keep your eyes focused on that for now?
I'm going to keep my eyes focused on that for now. There is some stuff I want to do with the XL. There's yeah, I guess we can talk about it. So in South Australia, I think it's called the Great Lakes Hill Climb. It's a really cool hill climb event that they do every year. It's a huge thing. It sells out literally within like an hour of them opening entries. But that's something I'd really, really like to do. They even have an XL category in there now because so many XLs have gone and entered it. So I think that'd be something I'd really love to do. And I'd also like to go back to Bathurst, but I'm not too sure if I'd do it in a racing format. The racing was really good. I enjoyed it, and it was great to race at Bathurst. But it was a lot of money. Like it's an expensive thing to go and do.
Yeah,
Whereas there's the Challenge Bathurst, which is a regularity event once again, and it gives you so much seat time. Like you're literally just cutting laps of Bathurst. And I think that would be a really cool event to do, just purely for the seat time and just being able to smash out constant laps in the car. Because that was kind of the downside of that event when we raced there was we got a lot of red flags, all the yellow flags. We had
yeah.
64 cars on track.
Yikes.
Like, it was mega, and it only takes a couple of them to come together. Then you're under yellows. If there's enough of them come together, then you're under reds. And I think we only had 6, 7 laps, not even, of actual racing that weren't under flags.
Yeah,
So it was a bit disappointing, but that's kind of the way it goes when you've got that many cars on track. So I think going and doing something like Challenge Bathurst, where you can actually just lap and lap and lap and really enjoy that track for what it is. I
yeah.
think I'd like to do that. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. So I heard from a friend who raced 86s up in Bathurst that you
Mhm.
only get your time, and if you don't finish your session in
Yeah.
time, they just call your session off. And
Yeah.
so he actually said the outlap can sometimes be the most important, and that first one he said because you want to try and race to the start finish line, because if you can get your lap started and get it done before everyone else, you actually might be on pole, because the next lap someone could bin it and then your session's done.
Yeah. Well, we didn't actually get so that was a crazy thing as well, is we all went out on cold tires because, as you said, we've only got a very limited amount of time. So we actually didn't do an outlap to go and warm up our tires or anything. We came out straight on the grid, go. So cold tires, cold everything, pretty full on. And I think that did cause a few problems. Um, Obviously, cold tires is a big one, but yeah, just cold tires, cold brakes. Like we're literally like, and because I was near the back, I wasn't up the front. I would literally
Mm.
come out of the paddock, turn left, drive for 50 meters, and I was parked up on the grid. So I was like hitting the brakes, just trying to get some heat in the brake pads and stuff like that. And yeah, you just have to wait till halfway around the track until you could actually start leaning on the car. So
Yeah.
it was an experience.
And being excels, no one would have forgave each other and just going for moves that don't exist.
Yeah, yeah. It depends on the people. Like we had a pretty good bunch of people around us. Like we had a lot of respect for each other. I think
Mm.
you've kind of got the guys at the very front who are usually actually very talented and give each other room, and then you've got the guys kind of like us, sort of mid pack and back, where we build our own cars and we've got a bit of respect for each other because we don't want to bin the car. But then there seems to be that little pack behind the front runners where they are just out for sheep stations and they will take any gap. And can be a little bit scary in that section. So
Yeah,
I'm not up there, which is kind of good for me. So
yeah, yeah. I'll be honest. We've always been racing on a budget since go karting, so we've had our own stuff, and I've been in that
yeah,
cheap stations one, just try to get ahead of that pack and stick with the front guys with the equipment
yeah,
I've got. Um, because it's just so hard to do when you're on a budget.
yeah,
And like
yeah,
and like
absolutely.
yeah, I I
Oh, and
don't
the race engines too. Like, we're supposed to be same as you guys. It's all blueprinted race engines. Like, you have to. You're not allowed to go out and just build whatever engine you want. Like, the engine has to be a certain thing. They're all sealed.
mm,
Yet there's still a difference between a sealed budget engine and a sealed race engine. Everything's just those 1%, and when you're on the straight and they're just slowly creeping away from you, it's a bit heartbreaking.
yeah. Well, it's down to that thing where the guys who can afford to rebuild their engine every two races because they run it on the millimeter of blowing up,
Yep,
of course you're
yep,
gonna have the better engine, the best performance. But
yep, yep. Exactly
it's
right.
yeah, like coming from myself, like Dad's always told me, he said, look, if you want to be competitive, you've got to have the will. You got to be able to, you got to drive it. So I've always found myself every time I've won, it's sort of been, I've had to push. So like it's a bit hard to explain, but in karting, I'd spend most of the weekend pushing my way through the pack because in qualifying I
Hmm.
didn't have the pace to qualify at the front.
Yep,
So I'd spend
yep.
the first heat races moving to the front, and then in the last one actually challenging for it
Yeah.
because
Okay.
yeah, like
Yeah,
in
it's hard, and it's seat time as well, though.
mm,
You'd know this when you've got the top guys. They're at the track every weekend.
yeah,
If they've got a Thursday off, they're at the track and they're putting down laps. Whereas when you're on a budget, you can't do that. You can't just go and spend every day at the track practicing, and the seat time really obviously helps. So
yeah.
yeah,
But I am slowly starting to find out that test days, like it is still expensive, but you can still do test days for like $250.
yep,
But the only issue is you need to get a Tuesday off, and
that's exactly right. Yeah, and yeah, Tuesday off work or school or uni or whatever, and you still got a turret there. Like
yeah,
for me for Winton, it's a 5 hour round trip, so it's
okay,
still, and with the price of fuel at the moment, like for the tow car, that's $150 worth of fuel to get there, plus fuel for the car, plus tires, plus brake pads. It can easily add up to a $700-800 day, um, and
yeah,
that's a lot of money. So
yeah.
yeah,
Um,
it's motorsport.
we are lucky that the Formula V's you have to maintain them, but you can sort of lucky because you have to maintain what you got. You
Yeah,
don't have to always throw new parts at it.
that's
Like
good.
I guess you should do your wheel bearings every now and again. You should do your oil every now and again,
Yep,
but it's not something you got to do every time you bring out the car. And the brake pads, for
yep,
example, because our car relies on sort of carrying momentum, we're not actually on the
yep.
brakes an awful lot.
No, that's good.
So so we can sort of get good life out of brakes before we even have to think about it.
Yeah, that's great.
Um, like
Right. I mean, I'll be honest, the XL's kind of the same. I mean, some of the top guys, they'll go
mm,
through tyres a lot more than me, but I just swap them front to back. And once again, they're light cars. We use momentum as well. So, like, my pads, I've had them in there for the past 10 race meetings and they're still fine. So,
yeah,
no, but it's good. And that makes it budget too. If you're not chewing tyres, you're not chewing brakes, all that sort of stuff, it does make it a lot cheaper.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Well,
that's
I've been
good.
lucky enough that a few of the guys just give me their tires after they use them if they're new enough.
Oh, awesome. Because
Yeah.
they go off some fresh, sticky ones and give you the
Yep.
older ones, or?
Yeah. Well, some of them change it every round, or if they've got
Wow.
spares that they didn't end up using that are a little bit older, they just
Yeah.
sometimes give them. So
How good's that? That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's pretty good. I believe
Yeah,
the
it's great.
XLs are changing tires, aren't they? Compounds.
Yes, so we've just changed to a Dunlop Dureza. We're still allowed to run the Federals, the Federals have been the tyre of choice for the XLs ever since they started. Unfortunately, Federals, yeah, they're just not making the tyre anymore. So, which is a shame because they're a very good tyre for what we do. But yeah, the Durezas apparently I haven't tried them yet, but apparently they're very similar to the Federals. But that will be the new control tyre for next year. So the good news of that is we're with Dunlop, and Dunlop obviously big in motorsport. They do I think they're the tyre for the 86. They're obviously the tyres for supercars and the Super Series, Super Twos.
Most importantly, Formula V.
There you go.
Yeah.
So because we've got that, hopefully we'll see some opportunities open up for people starting out in XLs to be able to
Yeah,
move up through the series. Like because they're sponsoring a lot of the series, it does sort of open up avenues and gateways for people to be able to move up through the ranks into different series. So yeah, it could be really good for especially the younger drivers, like yourself who do want to move up through the ranks. It could open up a few doors, which would be really good.
definitely, man. And it's all about that. Because we just when you got lots of young drivers, especially with XLs, you see a lot of them do come from karting.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and I will admit, some of our categories actually look at XLs and we kind of go, ugh, because you get these go karters who they come in and they're a little bit aggressive.
Very aggressive.
Robbie is
Yep.
racing. We like admittedly like I was lucky I raced supercarts because you can not touch in them things because
Yeah, that's good.
we're doing 180 comfortably at Phillip Island, and
Yeah.
you're going three wide. It's not pretty if you touch.
No,
So
no, absolutely not. No, and you're right. There is a bit of mentality in some of the karting kids that move up, and yeah, I mean it's not all of them. I mean a lot of them are very clean racers and
yeah,
extremely talented. But yeah, there has been a couple in the past where they've just got that mentality of just push through.
yeah,
Use their because karts have obviously got the big plastic guards front and back. I've spent a bit of time in karts too, and you can push your way around through a track, literally push through gaps, and yeah, they kind of have that mentality in their head of, well, I can do that in an XL too. And some of them come off track looking pretty rough. So yeah,
yeah. I was I stood up the top and watched an XL race, and you're like 100% right. The front pack, there's about the top five. They all sort
yep,
of run away, and they're really quick, and
yep,
they race fairly. Then you got a pack of people racing for it all,
yep.
and then you
Like
got
a
the
pack of like eight of them just going nuts. Yep,
yeah, and then you got the rest of them who are just boom, boom, boom,
yep,
just coming one at a
yep,
time.
yep.
So
We usually have a pack, sort of, yeah, mid pack. We have a really good battle. We usually have a group of like 5 or 6 cars, and we swap positions all the time. Like it's not uncommon for like say to be 3 or 4 of us racing, and we'll swap positions 3 times on a lap of Phillip Island, which is unreal. That's good racing. That's what you want.
yeah,
Like we all have our overtaking zones and everything, and we're just constantly changing positions, and that's for us, we could be at the front of the pack. Yeah, that's the mentality. Is as long as you're in front of the other 2 guys you're racing with, that's all we care about. So
yeah,
it's awesome.
yeah. That's fair enough. You did also mention that you're a photographer and
Yep.
videographer.
Yep.
So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I've been doing that for a long time, and then sort of transitioned into cars and motorsport a while back. When I used to do a lot of new car stuff for like BMW and Lamborghini and things like that, which was very cool, and did a bit of driving for a mate who did a lot of Porsche photography, which was cool. And then when COVID hit, sort of like a lot of us, it stuffed a lot of things, and I was stuck at home, and I saw that Street Machine was actually advertising they needed a videographer, so I put my hand up and said I'll come down and shoot something. So I shot a video for them, and then they're like, "Oh, can you come back tomorrow?" Yeah, no worries. So they gave me an address to rock up to, and that was the Street Machine Carnage Workshop, which is their long running YouTube series. And basically, I just invited me back every day since, and I've been there 2.5 years now, just shooting. Basically, it's just me and Scotty shooting all the Carnage episode. I also shoot. We've got Drag Challenge coming up in a week. So that's a huge event, and that's a big one for me because I sort of kind of run the video team now, I guess, for those events. So we put out a 25 to 35 minute like good production video every day of Drag Challenge. So we pretty much finish up filming, we go home, and we'll stay up to 2, 3 a.m. editing that video, and then we're up at 6 a.m. to go and do it again, and we do that for sort of 7 days. So it's pretty full on, but it's good. And summer nuts as well. I go and shoot summer nuts, and we do the same thing of that, like big production video every day with a small team, just 2 or 3 of us. So it's yeah, it's good. It's good. I shoot a bit of other stuff. I shot a 2-part doco on Tiger High Country for one of the teams, which still hasn't been released because we had a couple of issues, but hopefully it should be out soon. I'm really excited to share that. So yes, cars are kind of my life all round now. It seems.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. So you've always sort of been involved around motorsport.
Yeah, kind of seems that way. It just keeps drawing me in somehow. I did take a 10-year hiatus and go and live in the snow, so I was pretty unhappy with my life in Melbourne. I just picked up and went and worked at Falls Creek, and then lived in Japan for a while and Canada, and just lived the snow life for a while, which was really good fun. And that got me back into photography actually, and that's when I sort of decided I wanted that to be my job. And when I finally stopped traveling, I picked up in Melbourne, and that's when I started, getting back into the car thing and shooting cars and
I was gonna
doing all
say
that.
Melbourne can sort of do that to you. Can make you drift away.
Yeah, yeah. I finished TAFE and I just didn't know what to do with my life, and I was working at Harvey Norman and completely hated it. And I'm like, I need to go and do something, and saw a job offering for Falls Creek to go and tune skis. I went, that sounds good. So went off and came back 10 years later. So
Fair enough.
I
Yeah.
like Melbourne's all right. It's not a bad place. Just yeah,
Although
I,
although my parents don't like it now that I'm always racing in Melbourne because they're like, why'd we move away if we're just gonna come back? We might as well have stayed.
yeah, that's true. That's true. To be fair though, you got to drive a fair way. Like I'm in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. It's still 2 hours to Felpine. It's 2.5 hours to Winton. We got Sandown up the road, but it's probably the worst track in Victoria, in my opinion. You've got to drive for every track, so I don't think it matters too much, really.
Oh, you got to give Sandown some credit. It's really good. I love it.
Really? I don't know. To be honest, it was more fun in that Honda last week when I did that enduro. I think it's just because it's a high horsepower track, and when you're in slow cars like XLs, it's boring. There's
Yeah.
like three fun corners. The rest of it is just patchwork, bouncy, horrible. You can't see I don't know. I'm just not a fan of that track. Like when we've got so many cool tracks in Victoria, it's definitely the bottom of the list. So
So you haven't driven Calder Park then?
no, and that's bumpy as hell apparently.
Oh,
But
it's
has
bad.
character though. It's got character.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. You gotta have a crack when you find some time. It's
So into it.
incredible.
Yep. No, I'm really
Well,
keen on that. And we are so lucky in Victoria to have so many good tracks though, and potentially more coming too with these two tracks planned. You have the one in Avalon and the one out in Narre Warren too.
oh, Nari Warren. I
Uh,
heard about the Avalon one.
yeah, so the Avalon one, the Narre Warren ones actually have planning for a lot longer. It's at the moment it's a dirt track and a shooting range, and they got planning permission to basically build a world class track there, and they had the funding, and then COVID hit, and the guy funding it pulled out. But they still have all the planning permission to build a full, like almost like the Bend there. It just depends whether they ever get the funding again. But yeah, it's basically all ticked off, ready to go. They just need the money. So
Yeah. Well, I was actually interested, and I was looking on Facebook, and there's a page on there that does Google Earth sightings, and
mm-hmm.
somewhere in New South Wales, someone has a fully built asphalt racetrack in their backyard. It's not race. It's not.
That's awesome.
It's definitely never been used for anything, but it's they built their own track in the backyard. It's like it looks like what Nürburgring Spa did back in the day. It's just really cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's also a very not a very well known the old Ford test track out near the Yuyangs, I believe. It's out the back there. And not many people know it's there, but it still exists. And I think it went up for sale. And I think Kia bought it for a while, but I think it's back up for sale again. So there's a Cletus McFarlane style track someone could buy.
That'd be pretty cool though. Imagine owning a track so you could just go out there and but
I
the
would go through so
maintenance,
much fuel.
yeah, you'd have to probably maintain it as well, and it would just
Definitely, definitely.
spend
That'd
half
be
your
pretty
days on
cool.
the ride on.
Yeah, on the ride on and going around
Yeah,
and patching potholes for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's definitely something though. Like we're very lucky to have because New South Wales, we're seeing Oran Park shut down years ago.
Yeah.
Wakefield's it's shut down, but yeah, I don't really know the situation. But yeah, it's shut down. So they've only really got Sydney and Bathurst now.
Yeah. Well, same as South Australia. They've only got two tracks really, and Perth have only got two tracks. we're very lucky in Victoria to have so many, and like we've got major tracks. We've also got loads of little
Yeah.
ones like Haunted Hills and Broadford.
Yep.
If you want to go on the border too, we've got the TAFE track. The what do you call
Wodonga,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, the Wodonga TAFE track. Um,
I've driven
yeah,
that. That
yeah,
was
and
pretty cool.
there's even the airfield in Sale. They turn that into a racetrack and do track days there. So we've
Really.
got lots of little quirky tracks everywhere, along with the big ones like Winton, Sandown, and the Islands. So and Quarter
Bro-
Park now.
Broadford's highly underrated. It's
I agree.
unfortunately it's just too small. That's the
It's too
unfortunate
small for
thing.
door-to-door racing, but yeah, for small cars and track days, it is super duper fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we were
I encourage any of your viewers,
yeah,
if you get a chance to go do like Nugnats or something like that, go do it.
yeah.
Super fun.
We used to race the supercuts at Broadford,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
actually
awesome.
I was super lucky. We went there as soon as they. So you know how during COVID they resurfaced it, messed it up,
Hmm.
and then redid it.
Yep,
So we went there after they redid it the second time, and we were the
yep.
first guys to use it. I went out
Oh
there and
man,
broke the lap record by, I think it was 2.5 seconds or something.
no way.
Yeah,
So it's just
in
that much better. Like
yeah in semi dry conditions. It was half wet,
it's
half dry.
unreal.
Like yeah,
Oh man, I gotta get back.
I don't really want to like say I hate when I try and talk myself up a bit, but like I'm just so good in the wet. I've from a young age I don't know why I'm just
It's good, man. That'll get you far because I'm
yeah.
useless.
Well, it comes back to that thing like Dad always said. You've not got the machinery, so you've got to find your other ways to
Yeah,
be quick. So I guess whenever it rains,
it's a great equalizer for
yeah,
sure.
well,
That's good, man.
yeah, it's awesome though racing in the rain. I don't know. Some people don't love it, but I do.
Makes me nervous, but no, I do enjoy it. I'm just not very quick, but I do enjoy sort of testing where the car's going to let go and all that sort of stuff. And it's yeah, yeah. The island in the wet's pretty scary. Turn one into wet. The island is definitely hold your breath for me.
Yeah, I was still taking it flat.
Really?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, we can't do that in our cars in the
yeah.
wet.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I found a racing line and I stuck to it. And
Yep.
then people asking me afterwards, like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I was like, "I don't even know. I'm just doing what I normally do."
Doing what you're doing.
Yeah, it's
That's awesome.
yeah, because like in the Friday practice, I went out there and we had something wrong with the car and we were just trying to test it. And as it turns out, I was actually fighting with one of the guys that won early in the year. And I'm like,
Hmm.
hold on, I shouldn't be this close to him. And it
Yeah,
turns out afterwards that I was like virtually winning the thing. Like in practice, I was top in the timing
that's
charts. And I was
unreal.
like, yeah, right. So then when it rained in the race, that's when I was super happy and I moved up 10 spots past. Like I got lucky. Like no one spun in front of me, but everyone was kind of tiptoeing around because it was the first and second lap, and I just didn't.
Yeah,
I was just going.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I find out the reason I only do well in the wet is I just everybody else spins off and I just don't. I just take it
that's
easy. Just take it down a notch and don't crash, and everybody else does, and then seem to do all right. Just sail on past while they're in the grass.
that's fair enough. Yeah, it's very competitive. I tell you, like some guys are super good in the wet, and that's what you got to watch out for.
Yeah, yeah. Some guys for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Um,
Awesome.
but let's move on. So, if you were to give someone some advice for getting into grassroots racing or start
Mhm.
building a project car, what advice would you give to them based off your own experiences?
It's a good one. I reckon go along to some meets before you even start and make sure it's what you want. Like, check out the cars. Everyone's really friendly at nearly every race meet. I'm sure it's the same in your category. Like, if somebody comes along and said they're interested, they'll, let them sit in the car, play with it, see everything. Um, I'd say to people, go and meet people and be part of a crew.
Yep.
Like, I know for myself, I never have anybody help. Well, no, I shouldn't say. I rarely have people help me at the track. And I know a lot of other racers are the same. And if you go and say, look, can I give you a hand? Even just helping check tire pressures, all that sort of stuff, it gives you an idea of what the category is all about, how it runs, and yeah, it just kind of prepares you for what a race meet's like. So when you do get into it, it's not so daunting. You've been there, you've seen how a race meet works,
Yep.
you kind of know what to expect for getting out on track and all that, and everyone will give you advice on this at the same time. So I think, yeah, get along to meet people, figure out what it's all about. As for building the car, I mean, it depends on the category, obviously, but for the XLs, there's this overwhelming debate whether you buy a car fresh and start fresh and build it up, or just buy a bought car.
Yeah.
I can pretty much tell you now, buying a car that's ready to go will be cheaper.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, everyone thinks you can build a car cheaper, but in the grand scheme of things, it's the 1%ers that cost you a lot. If you build a junker that looks like absolute trash and isn't finished very well, then yeah, you could probably build it pretty cheap. But people very much underestimate all the little things like wheel bearing, servicing, fluids, even just like you want to paint the inside of the car because it looks like trash. There's an extra $50 worth of paint there, and it's those little things that really add up. And even if you budget it out, I budgeted out that it probably cost me about 13.5 grand to build my car. I'm now, and that was to a okay level. It wasn't a super competitive car.
Yep.
I know I've got a mate in Perth at the moment selling his car that is actually pretty dialed for about 12 grand. So yeah, if you want to build the car, I like building cars. So if you want to build the car, definitely go do it.
Yeah.
But if you just want to get into racing, I would keep an eye out on Marketplace because there is some good cars out there
Yeah.
for good money, and you can just buy it and go.
I was gonna say I saw an XL which I vividly saw never run up the front, and they tried, and it was, don't get me wrong, very clean car, and they were trying to sell it for 60 grand.
It's a bit much. Yes, two of the front-running Bathurst cars went up for sale after Bathurst, and they were going for 50. And it's a lot of money, but to be fair, those cars are super duper dialed. Like, they are perfection. And people say, "Oh, how could you ever spend 50 grand on an XL?" And you're not just paying for the car's just not the sum of its parts. It's the sum of the amount of time and effort that went into setting that car up and making it. And you know that with your car as well. Like it's not just the fact that those shocks are worth 4 grand. It's the fact that they're 4 grand and a cumulative of 2 weeks on track, setting them up to be perfect for that car. And that's where you're spending your money, because I guarantee if you got in one of those 50 grand cars, like for me, I would move up 4, 5, 6 spots straight away.
Yeah.
Because they're that good. So.
Oh, I'd tell you, mate, if I jumped in a car that didn't break down on me every time, I think I'd be in the top 10, no issue.
Exactly right. But like the guys front running in your races, I guarantee if you jumped in one of those cars, like you might not be at the front of the pack, but you would definitely be further up than you are now. Just because those cars are so dialed.
Yeah. They're incredible, some of the work that goes into them. But also the teams, they've been running since the late 90s, sort of.
Yeah.
So
there's so much data on the tracks and on the cars, and yeah.
Well, I did actually hold the unofficial lap record around Calder Park for 1 week.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah, until the others come along.
Yeah.
I don't even know
is that when it first opened up again? Or?
Yeah, I just
awesome.
know I was the only one there, and I was actually testing, and I had brake issues, so my front brakes weren't working the whole time. I had nothing to bleed it with.
What?
So I was running on rear brakes. So I was just taking it really easy, and I know a week later when the other guys rocked up. My time,
Still pretty cool,
I was going into turn 1, and because I was trying to be easy, the front was like moving around on me, and it was it was bad.
Sketchy.
Yeah.
Oh, for one.
Yeah. But before we wrap up, Matt, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience? Any upcoming events or content they should look out for other than the MR2? And have you got any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Content-wise, no. I think at the moment, as I said, I'm taking a little bit of a break for racing just for a couple of months, just while we get everything. As I said, we just moved house and there's a bit of stuff going on, so I'm just taking a bit of a break of racing. But yeah, just check out. Yeah, if you check out the MR2 build, that'd be really cool. It's something I'm pretty passionate about at the moment. As for sponsors, man, there's some pretty good people behind me. We've got Raceworks, who are supplying a lot of parts there's part for the XL, but also they're going to be putting some pretty sweet parts in this MR2. Protex Brakes, they do some amazing stuff, and I just upgraded my daily driver with their Ultra pads and discs, and damn, they're good. So yeah, definitely Protex and good stuff. And then Lux Performance over in WA, If you need any race stuff, they do everything, not just XLs. They do all sorts. And Brent from Lux he's got some cool cars and has done some cool stuff. So check out his web shop. He's got some great stuff on there. And RG Customs, who did my roll cage. Anybody in Melbourne who needs fabrication work, Rob from RG Customs does some phenomenal work. And I'm talking like, as I said, he used to build Scotty McLaughlin's cages in his car and stuff like that. So if you want quality, it's the way to go. So, and I do have other sponsors, but yeah, check out my channel for those. But they're the guys that sort of stand out to me at the moment.
Cool. And where can the people find you? What's the YouTube name?
So it's just youtube.com, The Nugget Project. But if you just type in The Nugget Project, they'll find me. Also on Facebook, Instagram. I even do a TikTok from time to time. So it's all just The Nugget Project. So
yeah. Oh well, I'll actually tell you something good. When I was doing my research, I searched up on a device I've never actually watched your videos on. I typed in the Nug and it actually came up on YouTube. So
killer.
There you go.
We're getting there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But that's a wrap, I guess. So, thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah.
No, thank you for having me, mate. I really appreciate that. I love what you're doing. It's great.
Cool. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. But yeah, guys, don't forget to subscribe for more interviews for Grassroots Racers. And make sure you guys follow Matt because his journey's pretty awesome. And can't wait to see what you do with the MR2, man.
Thanks, legend. And thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
see
cool.
you next time.
Well, remember everyone, drive fast and take chances. Safely, of course.